Do you sometimes feel like stuck? You don't make progress. You feel like you're going to the same old pattern. You feel like one step forward, two steps backward. You feel like pedaling water, treading water, and not really swimming and making progress. Well, welcome to the human race. I think in one way or another, we're all stuck in one place and feel like not really making progress. It does not mean that we do not have this beautiful experiences, mountaintop, where we feel elated. We feel awesome. We celebrate and delight. It's just, wow, those moments, we have them. But I feel sometimes as high as those experiences are, as deep and frustrating can be the pain and the stuckness and the mud in which we tread and seem not to spin our wheels and seem not to make progress. Now, that applies to our personal lives, and sometimes I feel that applies to our community, to our nation, to the world. Like some situations where I scratch my head and wonder, if we really know this vaccine is so effective and works, why the heck are not more people getting vaccinated? It just doesn't make sense to me. It feels like, duh, there is good science behind it. Think of your TV works because there is good science behind it. Your cell phone works, there is good science behind it. Your car works, there is good science behind it. Your light works at home, it's good science behind it. Same with the vaccine, my friends. This is one of those where I feel like we're treading water, not making real progress, and I roll my eyes and think of, oh my dear. And you can add to that experiences from your life, experiences from others and around the globe. What do we do with that? Paul, the apostle, had these wonderful mountaintop experiences, the grandeur of beauty, of being, it's almost like when I read this passage, I think, Paul, did you smoke pot or what happened? You were all elated, you were out there. They didn't have it back then, so something else must have happened, but he's just, near-death experiences explain that. You hear some people say, it was all light, it was the golden world, it was this undescribable experience. Paul writes about this. He doesn't give us details. It's beyond language, he says. But then also Paul is dealing with a thorn, with an arrow, with pain in his body. We do not know exactly what it is. But what we do know, Paul is wrestling with it. He's struggling. He's treading water. He's not making progress. He's kind of pounding, praying and saying, God, take this away from me. Doesn't happen. Paul is wrestling again and struggling and praying again. God, take it from me, this thorn. Nothing happens. Paul is praying again, and you see his pouring his heart and soul, his whole energy, all his desires, all his longing for healing, for freedom into it. It doesn't happen. But the insight that he gets is that God is not at work only on the mountaintops, but God is at work where we are stuck, where we wrestle in the pain, in the weakness, in the brokenness. Where when we are hitting rock bottom, when we feel like not getting up in the morning out of bed, when we feel like it's more than we can carry, when you feel like throwing up your hands and saying like, I don't understand, I don't get it, I just don't know what else to do. The invitation of Paul and from this scripture is to open up and surrender and come to the living God with it and put it in God's hands. Now, it doesn't mean it makes it easier. The wrestling doesn't get away from Paul as he's wrestling and struggling and fighting with it. But he gets a message in that you're not on your own in the wrestling. You're not on your own in the wrestling. God's grace, God's strength comes into our weakness. So here the message is, you don't have to be all strong. You don't have to be all bullheaded. You don't have to be stubborn and all, but you can open up and find grace and help and support in those struggles. One person whom I got to know who did that so beautifully, Donald Wilt, we celebrated his life just a few days ago. Donald Wilt was the successful person, pushing, taking every promotion, working very hard. Then his wife got Alzheimer's. He moved back to town, and I've not seen a person caring more lovingly and beautifully for his wife Janet than Don did. Every day he was at the nursing home feeding her every single day for years and years and years. And Donald, it was almost like there was a beauty in him that came through this wrestling, through the caring, through the struggling. And the beauty and the sense of humor, where he signed Janet out today, like when you take someone from the nursing home out and go out, you have to sign them out. So Don put like, today we go to Disney World. Today we go to California. Today we go to whatever. So his sense of humor, his beauty, his kindness, his deep, deep care and love for his wife. Wow. Now that wasn't mountaintop, that was experience in the valley, experience of grace where he felt God's light shines into the darkness, and the darkness has not overcome it. And that's what Jesus invites us, each one of us, to do. You know, when someone starts telling you something, often they do not want to have the situation fixed, like, oh yes. When your partner says, please exchange that light bulb, yeah, that's about the light bulb. But when they say what a tough day it was at work or this, can't fix it. Just listen deeply and caringly. Walk in their shoes for a mile. This care and compassion Jesus invites us into when he sends his disciples out and says, you live with the people, okay? He doesn't say, you just knock on the door, say something, and run away. He says, live with them. Listen to your neighbors. Listen deeply with an open heart. Walk in their shoes. And recognize that no act of kindness, no act of compassion and care is ever wasted. It's never, ever wasted, because always something comes back your way when you listen, when you care, when you support. The other piece that Jesus is very clear about is invite the people to return to the source, to how it's meant to be, to fairness, to justice, and to compassion. Now, This is the difference in between our church and the fundamentalist churches. My friends, it's a very, very important difference. Fundamentalist evangelical churches, their focus is on individual salvation. You are saved, you go to heaven. To the extreme, the rapture is coming, you will be saved, we'll all be saved. The rest of the world goes to hell, literally, falls apart, and people don't care about how others are doing. There is a deep selfishness, self-regard. I'm saved, the rest, whatever. Our faith in the footsteps of Jesus means we care for one another and we try to make the whole community better. It's called what we call social justice, fairness, compassion for all, not just for me, not just for you. It's the care and compassion, the justice of Jesus for all, the common good. You know, the common good, the beloved community, where the rights are not limited to a majority of people, but rights include those on the margins, LGBTQ+, women's rights, civil rights, human rights, not just in the US, but beyond. Where we continue to work toward the more perfect union. It doesn't just happen, my friends, it doesn't just happen. It takes people like you and people like me to make a difference. So Independence Day, freedom, yay! Now the freedom is not just freedom from what? Yes, freedom from subjugation, from unfairness, from oppression, definitely. But then the freedom in the sense of Jesus is always freedom for what? For what do you use your freedom? Freedom comes with responsibility. You see it in children growing up, you know. They think they can conquer the world, and that's important and an important part in their life journey. But then at some point, maturing and growing up means also you're responsible. You have all the freedoms in the world, but you're also responsible and invest yourself in the service to others in the common good, to working toward the beloved community. So not just what's in it for me, but what can I do to improve the lives of others? Do you ever feel stuck, treading water, not making progress? Welcome, I'm there. With the promise, God is with us in the valleys. And then knowing of those valleys and having experienced them personally also means we can be with others where they struggle, where they wrestle, where they need a hand up, where they need a partner, where they need fairness and justice. So today, I think of our neighbor, Tony Martello. He has the flag out. He's a service person. So whom will you thank today that freedom is not free? Those who serve, not just military personnel, but firefighters, law enforcement. Think of whom you want to say thank you to today or through this week. And think about where and how you can invest your time, energy, talent, joy, compassion to make it better toward the common good. I think that's what Jesus calls us to. Let us take that freedom and respond with our lives to offer it to others too.